All right. Hey, I'm Ed Parco here with RaterHQ After Dark. So, Rater, why do you do it after dark? Is that just because you couldn't get RaterHQ at the time?
Well, hi. Thank you for having me on.
No problem.
Actually, the reason why I did it after dark was the premise of the channel was to try to educate VSRs, raters, and authorizers after hours. So I found that there were a lot of individuals who work in the claims process that didn't know how to do the claims process. So
Right.
I was putting out videos for them to review after dark. So it's kind of
And that's how it all started. So you were trying, because let me back up a little bit. Because I've listened to 60 of your videos. And so when I say I went crazy on it, I went crazy on it. All right. You know what? Oh, darn this thing. Anyway, you like StreamYard. I have a nightmare with StreamYard. I like it, but there's issues. Like I have multiple channels and I can't switch between them once I go into it unless I go back out, and it's a problem I have with it. But we'll just move on. Because you were talking about a bunch of the stuff that you've done on your channel and how you were educating people, and you didn't want to have to educate them at work, and then you decided to do it after dark, is what I'm hearing.
correct. Yeah, it was rather than because RVSR, I've been an RVSR rater for a number of years. And rather than have the same conversation with somebody with different staff members 30 times, I just started doing videos to just say, hey, look, just come here. Just everybody go here and watch this, type thing. Because
Right,
contrary to, go ahead.
No, I want to go back. So what service and why? That was the first time. I don't know if you've ever told anybody what service you were in and why you picked that service.
You mean like my veteran, like my military service?
Military service, yes.
Oh,
yes.
Yeah. I'll just say I was in the Army, and then 68 Papa type situation.
For us Navy guys, what the hell is
radiology tech?
Okay, gotcha. All right.
So I was a radiology tech. So I have a medical background, and did 8 years and got out via med board type thing because I was injured in the military. So then I transitioned to working for the VHA, and to give back, to continue to give, and then got so disabled that I just couldn't keep doing it anymore, because it's radiology tech. You have to move people. It doesn't, a 500-pound person, I'm not being, any kind of discriminatory, but it tears you up, trying to move them, trying to, resuscitate them type thing. And so I couldn't do it anymore. And I just went to voc rehab and got trained to be a social worker.
Gotcha. Just so my background, I'm Navy corpsman, was stationed at Camp Pendleton with the Marines, was at the hospital, got into specialty physical therapy, and then also we pulled duty on ambulance duty on Camp Pendleton, and we'd get pulled out to the freeway and had done this stuff. So I totally understand what you're talking about, heavy people, everything. I don't want to get into the whole thing about where you're talking about being rude, but there are some big people in the military, especially spouses.
Yeah, and it's nothing against them. It's just honestly, what can the body take? And my body just couldn't take it anymore. And it was like the worst day of my life because I really loved being a radiology tech.
And see, I really enjoyed physical therapy, but I pulled it in the hydrotherapy area, which was for burn patients and other stuff. And I just, after a while, it was so much for me, which I didn't understand about the PTSD thing and having any of that kind of stuff until recently. I just thought I had a good memory, and I was interviewing somebody on my podcast, Helping the Brave, and he's a Ranger, and he's like, dude, you have PTSD, because I have vivid memories of so many things. And he's like, you need to have that looked at. And finally, I've been going through that process. But this isn't about me, this is about you, because what's amazing about you, and you're laughing, but is the fact that you're giving out secrets that we all want to know to make it easier for us to get our claims through. Because I've been fighting. Last night you were on H-Town Vet, and one of the guys was saying, they were asking why people didn't want this out. Why does the VA doesn't want this out? One guy said it took him 20 years. It took me 25 years to get my benefits. And it's so much easier in the last 6 years than it's been any other time in history.
You
don't think so?
That's
the process is easier. There's access to information that we didn't have before.
Okay, I will get 100% behind that.
That's what I'm talking about. We had no idea how to fill out certain things, how to do certain things, because of the fact we didn't have where I could talk to you wherever you're at. And I'm in California. We're doing a podcast, the podcast that you guys do, the lives that you do. We didn't have that information before to say, this is what you can do. Somebody asked over here, can you do a secondary condition? Can you do 2 secondary conditions? You know, I mean, if you have if you're trying to go for something, can you attach it to 2 secondary conditions?
Yeah. The only, see, I think it's a mixed bag, because yes, we do have access to vastly more amounts of information than we've ever had access to beforehand. However, all of that information is not pointed in the same direction. You know, it's not all as valid as, you know, there are a lot of misinformation out there. There just is. And that's another reason why I continued my channel, is because it's like there's frustration with how some content creators, and I won't name any names, but there are some content creators out there that willfully, for the whatever reason, misrepresent facts and truth, or they don't know. Like, there's a harmless factor here where some people will say, hey, look, I read this. This is my opinion on it. Fair enough, right? You don't have any insider information. You've never worked for the VA. You have an alibi for that. I'm not critical of people that give their own interpretation of stuff. It's when they say something is an absolute and they have no frame of reference that I take issue with it.
Well, if they know anything about the English language, there's nothing if it's an absolute, it's not true.
Yeah.
Just I think of things totally differently and look at things totally differently. Because one, I'm from the medical field like you are. I'm no longer in it. I've owned a mortgage company for the last 25 years and done very well. And I focus on veterans, but I've gotten into the space in the last 2 years because of going through for my benefits. The Ranger helped me out a lot, but then I learned the process and how to do it so much better. And to a point where I was telling you the other night that I created an app to eventually disrupt the industry to where you won't need a claim person to help you. You won't need a VSO to help you. You can do it yourself. You'll have access to everything, and all the information that is right that you've been putting out and the real stuff will be in there. None of the bad stuff. Because I went to a guy who told me, or when he's like, stand up. Now, when you bend over, only go to there for your low back pain. What you said the other day about the whole pain, and and I actually asked the CMP guy, because he's like, raise your arm, whatever. I go, do you want me to raise it all the way through pain or just where pain starts? And he actually said to me, just go to where pain starts.
Yeah. And that's not actually the regulation, unfortunately, but yeah.
Well, they're trying to, and that's now with this I'm all over the place today. I apologize.
You're fine. No,
but I have so much in my head that I wanted to ask you and everything, but I'm trying to get there. With the recent thing that so many people are upset about, the recent thing that was overturned, and the VA is not taking it into consideration anymore when they do you're going to your COP appointments and where your pain is when you have on medication and everything. And I've even seen the CivDiv and other people say that they're worried about people aren't going to take their medicine so they can go get their benefits. It's just back to how it was before that was in place. Correct?
That's correct. Now, I can understand why people misunderstand this. This is not a reading comprehension problem. This is the VA never implemented the 2012 Jones v. Shinseki ruling. So back in 2012, that's the foundation of the VA cannot discount the positive benefits of the medication. They've got to rate how the condition would be without the medication. That's what the 2012 Jones v. Shinseki ruling, in a non-legal summary, but mind you, I'm not a lawyer or anything like that. But that's basically what that ruling said. Now, everyone that was legally involved with that ruling started clapping their hands and they thought everything was great. However, when it was time to implement the Jones v. Shinseki, the VA never updated the DBQs to give symptoms with medication and symptoms without medication. The way that the VA did it from 2012 on, which hasn't changed except for Ingram v. Collins, is that how you presented the examination is how you presented the examination. They don't ever ask you, what are your migraines like without medications? There's nowhere for them to annotate that on the DBQ itself. So the best way that I can describe this is Ingram v. Collins changed how the normal status was to ask 3 questions. specifically about how your musculoskeletal condition is without medications. This is speculation. Doug Collins does not like the fact that he lost that court case, and he is rewriting the 38 CFR 4.10. The last time I checked, it could have updated since then, but the last time that I checked, is that the sorry, I was looking at Herman Munster's comment there. They're just joking.
There's a lot of comments, and we haven't got to any. We'll get to them. Don't worry. Yeah, we'll get to them. But I just want to know more about you, because a lot of the shows that you're on, you know, lives, everybody's going through the comments. I want to know more about you, know more about a few things before we get into those comments.
Oh, okay. Yeah. And just to finish up my statement, Ingram v. Collins just asked 3 questions, and we're just reverting back to the way the DBQs were reviewed beforehand, the way the CMPs were done beforehand. The change that was meant for updating 4.10 is just to basically make everything the same again, but not within the law. The VA has never honored Jones v. Shinseki at all, and somebody should be upset about that.
And so how can, all right, let's back. So for people who don't know, the reason your face isn't on is because you work for the VA, and I know you're retiring, but that's why. And you also, from what I've heard, some of your videos, your anxiety doesn't allow you to be on camera. Correct?
Exactly. Like I mean, it's my own personal hellscape of anxiety, but doing this, I feel comfortable. But yeah, I don't like showing my face. I don't, honestly. Like, I don't know how I'm going to go to the military influencers conference in September. I'm going. I don't know how I'm going to go. Probably better living through chemistry, but I'm going to go. Okay.
That one, is that the one in DC? Where's that one at?
Tampa.
Because there's another one coming up in a smaller place also.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Doug Collins is going to the Tampa one, and my fantasy is that I get to talk to Doug Collins, and maybe if Papa Bear lets me, tell him some things that could help out veterans claims process for the better.
And I know a lot of people were telling you last night that you should do this, you should do that. I think you should just keep in the lane that you're doing and keep educating us about how the process is and how to do that, to where maybe you are the one you train the trainers, you train, the people who do this, and to understand, because it's so much more powerful us having this knowledge, what to do and how to put it together, even at an individual place when we're doing our own packages.
Yeah. And that's kind of my goal, is to hopefully work myself out of a job, so that way everybody has the same knowledge that a rater does. So that way, to level the playing field amongst the veteran community and the people who are adjudicating their claims. Yeah.
Question is, what happened? How often does that process change? When will you be no longer valid? You follow what I'm getting at?
Oh, I mean, in a fantasy world, it would be soon. But it's not going to be soon, because there's so much misinformation out there. Like, there's one guy today, even, he was putting out stuff that he just doesn't quite understand. And I'm fine with that. Like, you don't have to be an expert on the topic. I'm not an expert on the topic, but misinformation hurts people. And that's why there's such a, I'm not fear mongering, you're fear mongering. I'm not fear mongering, you're fear mongering type thing that's going on currently.
There's so much real information that you can find in the right places.
Yeah.
And I mean, because MedPub, or, when you're trying to find out, like one of the guys I know, he has a guy who has prostate cancer, and they took out the prostate, and he was a helicopter pilot. I'm like, well, find out if there was something regarding helicopters or something that, that caused that type of cancer. But then there's also the presumptive from the burn pits, whether you're on the ground or in the air, correct?
No. Yeah. Sorry.
It's about tying it together, though. You have to tie it somehow that it did happen to that person. You can't just, because they got denied for it through the VA. The question is, because then I heard you last night talk about your VSO that you went to. You said you wanted to do this, and they said they couldn't do it the certain way.
It was impossible.
Yeah. And I know from being what I do, I can close a VA loan in 8 days, which I was told that's impossible, but I can do it. And I've done it many, many times. Not that I want to, but it's as soon as you get the appraisal and we close. It's the same thing in what you're doing is how do you package this up to where it makes sense? And then that happens that way. Is that kind of what you were trying to say in the past?
Yeah, and I'm trying to build foundations in my videos. So there's fundamental foundations, which this is correct until it's not. And then this, and then I build another layer on top of it. That's kind of how I've been building my channel and the videos. I've been putting them out in a specific kind of order for that. But the process is so convoluted, and there's a conspiracy side of my brain that says by design, to where unless you've actually done the job before, you don't know. Like, the single most misunderstood concept that I have been fighting since the inception of my channel type thing has been a lot of veterans think that case law dictates how the VBA works. And that's not the case. The M21 dictates how the VBA works. And so it's been a struggle in all directions trying to find a way to educate, because I'm like the little Dutch boy with the dike. I'm putting my finger here, I'm putting my finger here, and there's just so many holes where the information's not accurate. I don't know.
Well, it's funny because check this one out. Yeah. He's far more experienced rater than me, and I was just really starting to understand the process when I retired.
The spiritual wrestler is the one that got me into creating my channel, by the way. Like, I saw his channel on there, and I can tell by how he was talking about certain things that he was a rater himself. Because there's certain inside certain inside terms that nobody uses unless you work there.
Right.
Yeah. No, he's a great resource too.
Well, there's a lot of great resources, and you talk about them all the time. And again, if you guys are watching this, you like what we're doing here, just subscribe to Rater's channel, help him out there. You can subscribe to mine if you want. You don't have to, but let's help Rater out. The most important thing is just to help each one of us to get the information we need to move this thing forward. Because I think this movement needs to keep moving to where veterans are more educated. The people who are handling the process is more educated. They understand the process, because that will make it so much better for all the vets getting their benefits.
Yeah. Agreed.
What is the biggest misconception that veterans have when they're trying to get their benefits?
Well, I already mentioned one of them is that case law matters, because whenever they appeal things, veterans like to put case law in there, and they like to dictate how things should be interpreted. They think it's from a legal standpoint, especially on supplemental claims and higher level reviews. You're dealing with a person with a manual in front of them that is trying to process things the way that they've been told to process things. So that's one of the biggest misconceptions, I think.
So what you're saying is to focus more on medical information than on laws.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's a good way to put it.
I mean, because you have the medical journals who actually go through and they find out the connections between certain things that have caused this issue, and versus the laws that say now just like the whole thing with the VA, they're not accepting the law change. They're changing, they're rewriting it, saying we can't do it that way. We're going to do it this way. Somebody's going to sue them, and eventually that will potentially go back the other way.
And I've been seeing in the chat where there seems to be some potential breaking news on that the VA might have rescinded that. I don't have any papers to back that up at this time, but if they did, it's because they don't want to have it pointed at, if Doug Collins revokes the changes to 38 CFR 4.10, it's because he does not want to catch a lawsuit because the VA never implemented Jones v. Shinseki. So if somebody did sue for that, veterans could go back in time to 2012 and say, look, you didn't actually, there's a duty to assist error here. And I think somebody woke him up to that. I don't know.
Well, I also think that most veterans don't know about the duty to assist that you guys have. All the different things that, and the other thing is you're right. I want to go about bad information out there. There's so much bad information out there about how far your joint can move and how far your back can move and the pain regarding that. And the easiest way to look at that is to go to the CFR 38, whatever. And it shows you the range of motions and what it can be and what the percentages are. People should look at more information before they file their claim.
Yeah, they should have a familiarity with the condition that they're trying to, you know, seek service connection for. Not only in how it's rated, but also in the M21 manual, because the M21 manual further has caveats to it. In this situation, you can't claim it. In this situation, you can. So there's further, the rabbit hole goes much deeper than the 38 CFR.
And what, so on a why don't you explain to people because I know you talked about it before about splits, and that's kind of how I use the same analogy now because of what you said, to tell some of the other people that I know that how far a joint can go. It's truly, you need to raise your arm as far as it can go, or your hip, or whatever that thing is, not to just stop. Correct?
So people misunderstand that. They think that painful motion is 10%, 20% for the shoulder, 10% for everything else, minimum rating. What they fail to understand is if you stop whenever the pain starts, you're limiting what you could get rated for, because they have you do many different range of motion tests, like repeated use over time. Like that's one of the different metrics that can be used, and even flare-ups. If you're not having a flare-up, your range of motion should be worse whenever you do have a flare-up, correct?
Correct.
So if you only articulate where it is that your pain starts, oh, my pain starts here, then that's what the examiner is going to focus on, because you're so hyper fixated on that value, that number right here. It stops right here. When in fact, you could have a worse range of motion if you repeatedly, try to bend it or something like that. Like it gets exhausted, you get fatigued, and you can't bend it even to the point of pain. So people have gotten really focused on one facet of the CMP exam for musculoskeletal conditions, when there are situations where, oh yeah, you talked yourself into 10% because you just spoke about when the pain started. You didn't actually entertain the rest of the examination in order to potentially get yourself 30%, which you could have gotten if you would have stopped being so fixated on where the pain starts.
But that's what they're told to do by
That's a scary prospect.
their VA claim person. That is what they're told to do. I mean, I had a guy who told me that was telling some people that when you go in for your hearing, wait, when they do your hearing thing, count 3 seconds and then press the button. It doesn't work that way. And so I went in, I go, I cannot believe this guy told people to do this, because that's fraud. First of all, not likely, that is fraud, and you have to be careful. Then I heard another guy who went in with he would listen to really loud music before he got there.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, that's insane.
But he did have a hearing issue after that. Shocking.
Yeah. But even then, the thing that the average veteran doesn't know is that hitting the button, that's not really what gets you above 0% or 10%. It's the speech discrimination. It's when they sit in front of you and they ask you questions and see if you can understand the words that they are using. Can you make out the words that they're using? That, more than anything else, decides what's going to happen with what you're going to get rated for your hearing loss. People don't understand that, though. They think people try to reverse engineer the process, and it doesn't work like that. Well, I got 10%, and this is what I did. That might not be true for everybody.
Yeah, the 10% is because they can't test your ringing in your ears, tinnitus. But the big change that's coming through, the way they're changing that rating, is where they're going to be that huge change. Because if you can't, some of these people, from what you hear in the videos, they say, I say tinnitus is like the gateway drug to 100%, just for some of these people. And they use it to get, now anxiety, depression, I can't sleep, I have all these other things. And so what they've done is they've taken that away by making sure that you have a hearing loss in order to get it.
Yeah, well, you need noise exposure. So the way that hearing loss and tinnitus is kind of reviewed currently is that the examiner has to find your entrance exam audiogram and your exit audiogram. If there's no major shift between the entrance and the exit, then you didn't have a noise injury. I'm using air quotes, you can't see it, but you didn't have a noise injury during your service, so they're not going to service connect you. So it's just one of those weird things. Like, I don't know.
See, mine was from I worked in hydro, and it was a small, hydro room, and it was a small area, and there was tile everywhere. It was so loud in there. I can pretty much still hear those machines, and that's where I got my hearing loss from, the tinnitus, where other people were never around. Because if you look at corpsmen, we don't really have hearing loss unless we were in the combat zone and doing stuff. But certain ones of us were in certain environments that could cause that. And they finally learned that with the next one when they built a new hospital at Camp Pendleton.
Yeah, and I don't know. It's kind of interesting though for like the way things are rated in terms of like what's valuable, what's not valuable. Like a lot of people go, "Oh, wait, my MOS, has my job, my military job, it has a high probability of noise exposure." Well, that doesn't matter. All that matters is the evidence that is in your records to show that you had an injury. The evidence. And that's why I disagree a lot of the times with people when they say, "Hey, look, claim your back due to ruck marches. Claim your feet due to your shoes." Okay, well, all the evidence always has to be corroborated. Evidence has to be corroborated. If you say that you were on a ruck march, prove to me that you were on a ruck march.
Picture.
A picture can't be taken. How do I know who's in that picture?
Well, if somebody took a picture of you.
No, but we can't use pictures as evidence.
Can't? I thought you could use. I thought you said on one of your videos.
No, you cannot.
Okay. Could have swore, man. I'll find that video, man. I'm pretty good at remembering things.
The only time that you can use a picture is if you take a picture of a prescription or something like that, and you're using it as a media to actually give the evidence to the rater or to the VSR. You're using the photograph as a medium to move that evidence over to them. That's one situation where you can
not
use
to
a
prove
photograph.
you were at one place or another.
Yeah, you cannot prove that because there's no way. Like people send in pictures all the time, especially if they're junk. I don't know why guys like to do that. They're like, "Hey, look at this," and it's like, please stop sending in those pictures. It hurts my soul. Okay, like because you can hear it in the office at times because it was hilarious back whenever I was in the office. You could hear it whenever somebody opened up an image that wasn't. No, do not. That is not what I said. The salty old Marine. That is not what I said. Exact opposite of that.
Yeah.
But
I'd start throwing some of those in there for you.
Yeah, you'd hear it whenever somebody would open one of those up because it would just go throughout the entire office. It would just be like, "Ow!"
So here's my question: do you work in an office or do you work at home?
At home. Since the COVID-19, everybody went to work from home, and just some of us have reasonable accommodations that never came back, and type thing.
Newer ones have to go in the office.
Yeah, like that's the current move is that everybody has to go into the office. But what's hilarious is that we have this program called Salesforce that tells like how productive we are. Like it can tell us whenever we finalize something down to the minute, down to the second. So there's so much evidence showing that when we work from home, we're about 20% faster.
Yeah.
We get 20% more claims done and with less errors, but they just want people sitting in chairs. It's very weird.
Well, when you first start, you're not going to understand how to rate or do anything. You need to be around. It's the ones who've been doing it for a while. How long have you been doing this?
I've been in the VA for 10 years.
So how long have you been rating for?
I will not say because I don't want to. Well, no, that'll narrow it down as to
who you are. Oh,
yeah,
you're about who you are.
Who I is.
Aren't you on your long-term leave right now anyway?
No, I'm in the retirement. Yeah, I'm in the retirement phase. So officially retired, yes, but my party isn't until March 1st. But yes.
March 1st. So here's my. Will you ever? So you said you're not going to show your face. Are you gonna keep? And for most people, don't understand. I get that because in the beginning when I started, so I got on radio in 2018, and that's when I learned how to do voice and everything. And I actually learned that my voice was deep. I had no idea that I had a deep voice until I got these headphones on. I was on radio, and then I got into podcasting and lives. I've done tens of thousands of them, so I understand. When you're in front and people can see you and everything, it's a lot more for people to have anxiety when you can hide. And please don't take this wrong, hide behind something. It's a lot easier to get that information out there. But it also is a great way to get people to come to your channel because of the fact that they can't see you.
I wouldn't have thought that.
Because it's more
I
secretive. It's more, who is this guy? What
oh
does he
yeah.
really look like? Now, do these memes that he make, does he kind of look like that? We hear your dog all the time, Luna,
Yeah, Luna does look like how she does in the photo.
but that's all you're going to say, right?
That's all I'm gonna say.
That's the only
I
one that
don't.
looks like the photo.
Well, yeah. I just it's really weird because I don't want to become popular. I don't know if that makes any sense. Like you probably have people that come up to you and say like, "Hey man, great show. I'm a big fan." I don't want that. I mean, I rarely leave my house anyway because I do suffer from agoraphobia, but I would die on the inside if somebody recognized me. I would.
From our radio show, we have the radio show that we do for real estate and finance called Real Estate Jerky. We give you something to chew on. I can be anywhere and people know me by my voice. They don't know me by my face because it's all on the radio. So here's a question. This is what I was kind of bringing up earlier because you said don't do legal. What about the PubMed support claims for toxic exposures and that kind of stuff? Do you need to include articles with that, or instead of where people put case law, put the article information? Is that important?
It can be helpful, but it has to match your circumstances, right? If the PubMed is about, somebody from Indonesia or something like that, like if it's a study based upon
It has to be a
Indonesians, and you're
has
not,
to do with veterans, has to do with the military,
yeah.
you're going through that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Or like, are you in the demographic that they talk about? What's the validity based upon when it's actually compared to your circumstances? How well does that line up? Now, a lot of people, whenever they submit these forms and these documents, they tailor it to the rater, but the rater's not the one that cares about this. The examiner, the medical examiner, is the one that will actually be making all the decisions on this. They'll be medically determining whether or not you have a link to certain chemical exposures. So
it's really important to
yeah.
state where you were, because on most DD214s, they just say where you were at the end. They don't always say every place you were at. You need to make sure that you have records where you were at.
Well,
right.
Oftentimes the VA already has those records.
Okay.
They'll have the records in what is known as an ILER report, ILER. So if you go into like your VSO and they pull up something, there should be an ILER report that has all of the exposures. Now, most people after 2000, if they've served after 2000, could have an ILER report. Everyone before then, they don't have access to the ILER report because the DoD wasn't, logging people's exposures before then. But you also have a Terra memorandum, which the VA concedes what exposures you are. If you're conceded exposure to asbestos and you're claiming something due to asbestos and you submit, clinical documents, scientific studies and whatnot related to asbestos exposure and the condition you have, that's pretty solid evidence. That's a fair, that's the veteran utilizing the information to the best of their ability to give themselves the highest likelihood of success.
Sorry, I was looking over here. Someone said I look like Willie Robertson from Duck Dynasty.
Oh gosh.
Well, I don't normally have a full beard. It's been one of those things. I just haven't been shaving this last 4 months. I have to go in for my PTSD appointment, so I can't look clean shaven, right?
Oh, shots fired too soon.
And by the way, that is part of it. We read a guy's CMP. He went in for a CMP appointment. We read his first paragraph, and it talked about how clean shaven he was and how dressed he was. And because it's part of the whole thing about caring about your look, isn't it?
Doesn't matter.
Really?
Yeah, doesn't matter at all. Like, because it comes down to check boxes, right? Like, just because you're not clean shaven doesn't mean that you neglect your personal hygiene. Okay.
You mean your other personal hygiene?
Yeah, just in general, shaving is one facet to a multifaceted clinical observation. Some people rub their clothes in dirt and stuff like that, but there's other ways to look. Like, okay, I'm a clinician. I'm going to look at your fingernails. Okay. I'm going to look at your shoes. I'm going to look at different things, how the knots are tied. I'm going to look at the wear marks on things. I'm going to look at different things. Like just because you're clean shaven, like there's malingering reviews where you determine whether or not the person is being factual. And shaving doesn't. I don't go, oh my gosh, he's clean shaven. This man is fine. Like it a lot of people assume that, but that's not it. It's a whole magnitude of things. Look at their eyebrows. Like, if they've got well manicured eyebrows, then okay, maybe, but it's a multifaceted thing.
Gotcha. So basically I've had some people who said they got denied for it because then it's
Nope.
There's so many things. If you look at the difference between 10, 20, 30, all those different categories, there's so many things that are in there. You have to match those. If you miss them, then you go to the lower one, correct?
Yeah.
And again, I'm not a VA claim person. So
no,
it's how this so people understand. How this podcast happened is I watch your stuff, and I always have veterans on my podcast helping the brave to talk about your service, your transition, what you got into. I just wanted to talk to you because of the fact of, and we were going to do just a regular podcast. You last night go, can we do a live? And I'm like, okay, I haven't done a live in a long time for this. I do 14 shows a week, and most of those are lives. So,
yeah. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to add to your plate.
You're not. It's fine. It was good. It's a Thursday. It's my Thursdays are my easiest days.
So I guess mental health is one of those hard things because the way that I would describe it is if you're going into a CMP exam and you're making a statement of like, look, I have poor hygiene, there needs to be some corroborating evidence in your treatment records in order to convince that examiner to check that box. The rater just transcribes whatever boxes the examiner checked into VBMS, and that's how it's rated. So if somebody didn't get service connected because of something, it's because the examiner didn't believe that either the veteran didn't have the diagnosis that they kind of wanted, or the examiner believes that there's a different cause for their mental health condition. And it's not going to be determined by like one individual symptom like shaving. If you're clean shaven and you have hallucinations and delusions that are well documented in your treatment records, I don't care how clean shaven you are, you're probably going to get 70% just for that symptom alone. If you're service connected, like let's say you go for an increase and it's well documented that you have hallucinations, delusions, and you've been hospitalized for them, how clean shaven you are will not factor into it. Is especially like if you have the weight. God, it's really hard to describe this. The weight of the symptoms depends. If you have two symptoms together, they can have a different weight than if you only had one of them and a different symptom. So there's no way to eyeball it.
And if people push, you brought up malingering, and I don't think people understood that except for when we were in what that was called. But when you go in for your exam, and if you embellish on how bad it is when it really isn't that bad, that's going to hurt you overall on everything you're doing, correct? Because they write that information in your information, correct?
It can. Like a lot of the times the examiners filter out what they believe to be not true. Like the most of the time you see it like in migraine examinations where the veteran will be like, I have 17 migraines in a month. And they're like 4. The examiner goes 4. You have 4. That's them filtering. That's them going, okay, this is what I can kind of believe based upon what they reported and how they, what the evidence says and what all this stuff. Because you have to understand under 38 CFR 3.159, the examiner creates medical evidence with the DBQ. They're filtering all the evidence that they've been given, and they're creating evidence based upon their interpretations.
Okay. Since you brought up about the DBQs and the AI, because I've been building this app out with AI and doing everything. And then everybody's so worried about, because I've seen those companies where you can, get a DBQ and a Nexus letter pretty much for anything you want. I mean, that's going to be major with what they're doing. There's going to be a lot of people with fraud going through that, and that's going to cause a lot of people potentially to go to jail.
I don't
see.
For me, it's premature to determine outcome. Just because I don't know how the VA is going to take this. Like, we don't know how hard they're swinging on this. It could be something to where their goal is to disconnect people who were malingering or provided falsities. We don't even know if the focus is on the veteran or on the like external organizations, because these are all private DBQs. Remember that. They're not looking for malingering in all DBQs. They're just looking for private external DBQs.
Right. Well, that's what I meant the private one. I apologize. I didn't say that. And it's not so much, I guess you keep the word malingering, that's used under everything. Like if it's true.
It can be.
Well, I mean, that's you brought up again about because I just, there's been a lot of people who've talked about that kind of stuff and how that they're out there and who to use. Even last night on the H-Town, there was somebody that we need to connect all the different people who do Nexus letters and DBQs so that vets can find them. That is something I'm working on. I'm not trying to bring it up and push what I'm trying to do, but I guess I want everybody to be able to go to one place and know where to go and who's good and who's bad. And we keep a record of that.
I mean, that is something that would be like, if we're going to treat it like it's a business, like let's treat it like it's any other business. Yelp ratings, like how do we know who's good, who's not? Just because you're big doesn't mean you're good.
No. But the Yelp rating, we need a vet rating, not a
Yelp. We need but I just use it as an example.
I understand. And that's part of the whole thing. Because I'm trying to put together a whole marketplace so that people can go to one place and find everything. I'm not trying to make a ton of money. I just want vets to be able to go to one place and find the information they need and knowing that it's the right information and not the wrong information.
And that's, and some people ask me, well, who would you go to? Rater, who would you go to for a DBQ or Nexus letter? And I'm honest in that I can't guarantee the outcome, so I wouldn't go to. That's why I don't endorse anybody specifically. I have endorsed. I've kind of said nice things about two different companies just because one of them I have rated their DBQs and went, oh, okay, solid. I've rated multiple of their DBQs and went, oh, okay. And then the other one, it's like, okay, they have a good, overall message and they're open to change. They're open to learning.
What makes a DBQ good?
It has to pass authenticity, credibility, and sufficiency review, and it has to interweave the veteran's specific treatment into their medical DBQ and sometimes Nexus letter or medical opinion. I hate book reports. It is technically possible that this veteran could have PTSD due to eating candy. Like, okay, I get that it's technically possible, but is it technically possible that this veteran's PTSD is due to candy? They never make that connection. So it's not a valid not a valid medical opinion at that point.
Somebody asked, would a local doctor fill out a DBQ, not a company that just markets for this, but a regular doctor? And you ask them. I think they're saying ask your doctor first. Yeah.
They can, like a local doctor can fill it out as long as, number one, they're a qualified clinician, right? Like they have to be qualified to do it. If they're not a mental health provider, they can't fill out mental health stuff. There's certain legal caveats to that, but there's also requirements.
And that people keep bringing up the 100-mile thing. That's important. But if you're getting if your psychiatrist is not in the same town as you and you do Zoom appointments or you do phone, that's okay if they fill it out. But you can also use nope. Go ahead.
Okay. I'm going. So the Zoom call is same as in person. It doesn't matter. Okay. I was going to do a video about this, but I'll just do it here. Okay.
Well, I was just saying it doesn't come into play because that's how it does come into play. Okay, go ahead.
It does come into play because it's not how far the veteran is from the examiner. It's how on earth did you, the veteran, get connected with that human being over there? How did you get connected with them? Was it because you will pay them and they'll give you what you want? How are you connected to them? How did you find out about them? I don't know what doctors are over 100 miles away from me, right? Do you know what doctors that work 100 miles away from you are? Why would you know that? How would you know that? What is the motivation to know that? That's the crux of the issue. It's not that you live 100 miles away. It's how did you get connected with them?
Yes, I'm in Modesto, and most places are further than that,
yeah, further away.
yeah, go to
But
Sacramento or whatever, they're far away. But people are saying that because there's some companies who will review your information and then write that information for you. Is that allowed also or not?
for
For like they'll review, like I know a guy who is a PA who also is a
okay,
CMP person, and he'll review your medical records, review everything, and then write you a Nexus letter and a DBQ. And
yeah,
but
that's
he's like 300. He's in 2 states over.
perfectly fine. But then it comes into the credibility thing, like the authenticity and credibility. How do you know this person? How did you find out about them? What's their motivation? What's your motivation? Like, is it fraudulent? Is it pay to play? Like those are the questions that are being asked whenever the VSR is reviewing that DBQ. How do they know each other? Now, what I recommend people to do is provide an actual 4138 VA Form 21-4138 and say, hey, look, this is why I'm using this person. This is how this is happening. Okay, this is why I'm going to this human being. This is how I got connected with them. This is why I'm using them. Like, I've done this in my personal life where I've submitted a 4138. I used a private DBQ and said, hey, look, I don't like going to the VA doctors because I work for the VA. So I found a doctor that works outside of the VA, and I'm using them for my own privacy. Explanation matters. Now, if they're a specialist and you can't and there's nobody around you to treat you, then that's a rationale. That's a perfectly good rationale as to why you are receiving care from that person or whatever.
See this one? I got my DBQ from outside PCP and they got burned, saying the VA examiner was more credible.
Yep. And that's honestly what happens. And once the VA exam has been created, the rater can overturn the VSR determining that it was insufficient. So they can use a private DBQ if the rater reviews it and says, hey, look, I actually think there's nothing wrong with this. At which point in time, like I've overturned VSRs that have basically said, no, I don't think that DBQ is real. Let's go to a VA examination. I've actually overturned that and said, look, I'm going to combine these together to where the veteran gets both symptoms on both DBQs, the worst one being the higher one. I'm going to go with that. But yeah, I don't know. Spiritual professor.
So it has to do with the rationale on there, making sure that it actually connects correctly.
Correct.
Yeah. It's got to make sense.
It has to make sense. And then sometimes what happens is private companies or private whatever, they use a template that they don't understand that their template disqualifies their own DBQ, because they'll say something like, I think it's due to the veteran's direct service connection and secondary. And you can't have that. That's like saying John died in 2000 of natural causes, but he died in 2017 of old age. Both of those can't be true because the in-service event happened in service. The secondary happened after service. Which one's true? And that's where a lot of private DBQs get disqualified.
All right, so let's state that one more time so people understand that.
Sorry.
You can only have, no, you're perfect. I just want people to understand what you just said, because that's very important. Because a lot of the private people have no idea how to write the Nexus letter. So a lot of people the doctor will tell the vet to have it written and I'll sign it. And if you do that, you have to make sure it's correct too. And
yes. And it's not just them, but it's people who this is their day job. They fill out DBQs for veterans as a daily basis. They don't understand that the words that they choose can disqualify their own medical opinion. So if they say something to the effect of, I think that the veteran's PTSD was due to direct service connection and secondary to, this, that, or the other. When they do two different theories for service connection within the same medical opinion, it breaks the medical opinion. It's considered conflicting evidence because there's a time period discrepancy there where if that happened in service, and let's say you were in service from 2000 to 2015, and then you're saying that it's due to this other condition, which was diagnosed in 2022, how are both of those true? They're mutually exclusive. only one can be true. It's either due to direct service or it's due to secondary. And that's where they fall down the stairs a lot of the time for me.
Can you read the screen?
I used one of the claims companies on the naughty list to file the claim, but used VAs for DBQ. Think the VA will flag my claim? Naughty list to file. Oh, no, they're not going to file it. You'd have to have submitted a private DBQ for it to even be flagged. So if you're somebody that never used a private DBQ, then you're fine.
And even if you used a private DBQ and it was correct and everything else,
yeah,
you're still fine. It's the one they're looking for true fraud in certain things, or is that we think that's what they're looking for, right?
Yeah, we don't know yet, but we're going to know that there's going to be a threshold. So there's going to be a threshold in which claims that meet this criteria will get put aside. Think of it like TSA, and the TSA says, nope, you're getting a manual review. They're going to be doing that where they take claims aside where the veteran meeting a certain criteria, having a private DBQ, if you meet that criteria, your claim will be put aside and reviewed specifically. And you're right, it doesn't mean anything. We don't know what that looks like, but it's also something that the VA is not going to inform the veteran community as to the boundaries of that review.
Also, I think what they're also going to look for, and this is what company is doing all the DBQs, private companies, if there's a company that does so many of them.
I was actually speculating that as well, where I was thinking that it's not just going to be company, but it's also going to be provider. Like, right. How many of these have you filled out? You filled out 720 DBQs separately
in 2 months.
Yeah. And you keep saying the same thing over and over again. Those are the individuals that got to worry about the BI program flagging repeated use of the same wordage. Like if you have a template.
What is the BI for people?
The salty old Marine can tell it a little bit better. It's like it's a business AI program type thing. I don't describe it very well. He's so much better at it than I am. But it's just a screening tool that I want to say it's a form of AI, but I know I'm going to get eaten alive in the comments, but I said it was AI, but it's actually a term called BI. It's a Microsoft program that reviews certain data and whatnot. And it can flag repeated use of certain terms or patterns or whatnot. I'm not very technical. I apologize.
All right, that's okay. Don't worry about it. Here, I think this person's fine. My VA CMP exams are scheduled 100+ miles away. No problem with that far. That's a CMP. That's something totally different. You don't control that. They're more worried about what you control and who you go to and why you go so far away. Yeah,
because unfortunately the CMP examiners are vetted, so they're part of the contractors. They're vetted. The VA doesn't look at it's not. Once again, it's not the distance. It's how do you know this human being? Well, of course, the vendor knows that person because they're on the payroll, they're vetted. How do you know Joe Blow doctor over there? Why do you know them? What's the motivation? Yeah.
Because like the person I know, I could have said where I interviewed him on a podcast and I thought it was very professional. And so that's why I used him. That doesn't mean it's perfect, but that is why, I didn't go to him as a pay to play. I went to him because of the fact of now we have a relationship because I interviewed him and I know him pretty well. And I thought he would do a great job.
Well, and that's fine. And as long as you were to articulate that when you submitted your DBQ, it's like, hey, look, this is how I went about finding this guy. How did you find the person? That's the unspoken thing that's kind of bouncing around here that nobody's taking into consideration. They think, oh, it's just because you're 100 miles away. It's how did you find them?
Right.
It's very weird.
Well, no, it can make sense. Community care provider authorized by the V on referral got one submitted, accepted, higher level review and lien of additional CMP. Well, community care, that's what VA allows you to go through.
Fine.
Yeah. These are too easy for you today.
Yeah.
Hold on, let's see here. If your VA DBQ is less than a year old, can you submit it with your supplemental claim and avoid a new CMP?
That is unfortunately too old. There is kind of a freshness period of 6 months for most DBQs because a lot can happen in a year. So the duty to assist would compel the VSR to get you a new a new DBQ or a new CMP exam, because we don't want to shortchange you in case the condition got worse. Because think about it this way, most disabilities get worse over time. We don't want to shortchange it, or the VA doesn't want to shortchange it.
Let's see here. There's this.
There's a bunch of BI clarification of BI in there, and guys, accept all the business intelligence program. I don't know that much about it. Go out and research it, please. I'm outside my element on that one. I defer to the salty old Marine on that every day of the week and twice on Sundays.
Well, it just do what's right. You know what I mean? Focus when you put your stuff in, do it right. Don't shortchange yourself by trying to get around certain things. Just submit it properly. And if you're going to go outside of what, it's the same thing I have to do when I have people who work 120 miles away from where they live. I just have to acknowledge it and say why that's okay when I do a loan for somebody. It's the same thing here. Why are you using this person? How come you went so far away? Is it because you know they were going to give you what you wanted, or is it because of some other reason?
Yeah. And that's basically it, you know. Yeah.
That's it.
That's it. That's full send.
That's it. All right. What did I not ask you today that we should have asked you?
To be quite honest with you, all the questions have been great. It's been very interesting for me. Like, I like the way that you present, you know, and anybody that's on my channel, obviously, find all of Ed's content and please like and subscribe. You know, go check him out. Give him at least watch his stuff twice. Watch 2 different things. Give him a chance. See if he wins you over. That's what I recommend for everybody. You know, I'm humbled and honored to be here, so I like it. My eye color, hair color. How tall man, that guy. Yeah, that guy.
How tall are you? How tall is a RaterHQ?
How tall is he?
He's taller than his dog.
Yes, that's true.
And he does have an eye color and a hair color.
Yeah. I don't know. Like, and what's funny is whenever I go to the military influencers conference, I'm probably going to sneak up to people that I know that are going to be there, and I'll probably say a couple words to them, but I'm going to go. I'm going to force myself to go, but it's going to be straight panic attacks, but I will not be sitting there like, hey guys, how's it going? I say I've got, you know, severe mental illness, but I'm fine. I'm not fine. Like, I might say hi to a couple of select people, and then I'll just fade to black. And then, you know, I don't know. It gives me an anxiety attack just thinking about it. So, but I'm going to go. I'm going to force myself.
Well, you know, I won't say there's large crowds or all that other stuff that's going to mess you up either. So,
yeah. I know it's going to be horrible. It's going to be horrible.
It's horrible for all of us, but it's like, you know, sometimes you have to just, you know, do what you got to do. Yeah.
I think it's healthy. I've got to address my disorder a little bit, and I think it's healthy to, you know, get out for one good time in a year type thing.
And how I dealt with mine was doing my podcast, Helping the Brave. Doing that is what helped me, because I was told by somebody else that was how I was, you know, working on what I have, is to be able to do that and talk to other vets and talk about what they've been through and what they're going through and where they go out on the other side. Because I've done 2 fire walks for veterans here in Modesto, California, which is actual, you know, you walk on coals. It was like I don't know how old you are, but Tony Robbins does fire walks, and the guy I had that worked for him for 20 years, I had him come out and actually do the fire walk for us. And we had a couple hundred people go through those fire walks, and it changed their lives. They changed everything. And it's important to help vets. And that's why I'm here. And that's why I do. And that's my coping mechanism for what I deal with.
Awesome. Yeah. I'm really new to YouTube and all this stuff. So I don't know what to think. I started out thinking I was going to get 10 people, you know, 10 people on my team and throughout my RO, watching my videos, and it has blown up to insane proportions. So that's another thing, is I didn't do this to try to, like, most people do things for power, prestige, wealth, and altruism. And mine was altruism. I don't really want power. I don't want prestige. I don't want to be famous. I don't want, and I'm not going to be famous, but I don't want people to know who I am. I don't know. It's kind of weird, but.
Well, I'm sorry. You are famous already.
I'm not famous. H-Town Vet's famous.
No, what I mean is, so the whole thing about being an influencer is just a joke. You know, I always make fun of it because people know me all over the place. We're on the mortgage and real estate side versus all this stuff. I don't do it for that reason. I do it because I'm I want to know about you. I want to know what makes you tick, everything about you. That's why I do the interviews I do. And if anybody wants to be on my Helping the Brave, just reach out to me and we'll get you on. It's because every veteran has a story. I want to know what it is, and everybody should talk about that.
Yeah, I mean, like, I don't know. I've got my own my thing is to give back to veterans, and I hate it whenever there's two different sets of rules, and I don't like that. I don't like the fact that there's behind the scenes super secret squirrel stuff that people don't understand. And, you know, a lot of the people that work at the VA and the claims processing, they forget that there's a human being on the other side of that claim. They forget that there's a family on the other side of that claim. And that doesn't mean that they have to grant. You know, you do whatever the evidence tells you to do. But there's some people that treat the job like they are the gatekeepers of fraud. They are the gatekeepers of you know, what do you call it? What is it? The funding type thing. Whenever like we're in national debt because of the veteran, like, no, just stop that. Just, you know, we just grant when you can, deny when you must. And, you know, that's it.
Yeah. Well, when it catches up to the SNAP program, let's talk. So did you see that with you're famous already? So
I don't think so. Somebody was telling me that AI is now referencing me, and I'm like, oh gosh, that's scary.
Well, after a while, I mean, that's how that works. I mean, the more and more you put out there, you know, YouTube is a search engine. It's going to put your information in front of everybody, and you do cut it up. Now, my question to you is, do you do your own cut ups? Do you do all that editing and all that stuff yourself, or do you have somebody else who does it?
Oh, I'm not good at YouTube, but yeah, I do all my own stuff. So evidenced by, I shoot myself in the foot more than I don't. Whenever it comes to, I don't maximize or min-max my channel to where I try to reach as many people. I don't know that much about YouTube. I just kind of put it out there.
Well, how it used to be when I started doing lives 4 years ago, before anybody else was really doing them, they didn't promote the lives very well. Like if you went live, you didn't get, it was not everybody could see it and everything else in the beginning. It's gotten better since then. You know, there's shorts and everything else. And just so, because I told you I do 14 episodes a week of stuff, I created, it's almost finished. I created an app where you can drop in your MP4 from the beginning. It will auto fix your sound. It will cut it up into all the 5 different shorts for everything else, 3 different versions of, you know, medium, long, and then your full episode. And then it will automatically send it out to all the different places that you want it to go live to, you know, when you're done. So that's about 80%. I just got to finish a couple more things. And so when I get that finished, I'm going to reach out to you so you can beta test it for me, if you would.
Yeah, that'd be cool, man.
Because what's nice is I have a whole team of VAs, virtual assistants, not the VA people. So, you know, we got to be careful going back and forth who we talk about, right? Because I'm on so many different things and they have to explain to me, hey, which VA you're talking about. So I have a team that cuts all my stuff up. And I want to get to a point where I don't have to have that team because of the way things are. And with the way AI is and the way you can vibe code and create stuff these days, eventually it'll get that way. So,
yeah, I mean, I think it's cool. I think, like, once again, the YouTube, I'm not good at YouTube, but I see value in it because there are some people.
Why do you say you're not good at YouTube? You go live and you do and you drop videos. What more is there?
I mean, I don't have a catchy little jingle at the front of my thing. I don't have, like, you know, uber AAA level graphics. Like I said, I don't maximize my stuff. Like, a lot of people think I'm AI. They think my channel is AI because they're like, he doesn't show his face and he doesn't actually, like, and he's just reporting stuff. So you know how you get those AI slop channels out there that they show a picture where they're talking about veteran stuff, and then there's people running in a field and a bicyclist, or, you know, like it slops together all this stuff. They think that my channel's like that, but it's not. I am not AI.
But the people you serve know who you are, and that's what's most important, because the best, you know who your perfect client is. I know we're completely off the subject of what we've been talking about, but the most important thing is when you're talking to that one person, who is that one person you're talking to? You know who that person is.
Yeah.
And that's who you talk to. That's why you do so well. So when you say you don't do well, you're doing very well. on this because
Well,
of the fact. And the fact that you don't have a quick thing in the beginning and all that, it's the fact that you don't show your face that's drawing everybody to you, because they understand your issues. We all are vets. We all have issues. We understand other vets' issues. So we get that. And we just appreciate the knowledge that you give. I got, once I found you, I was like, man. And that's why I went through, I mean, I know you have a lot of videos, but I went through 60 of them in the last 2 months. So
yeah, and the information, honestly, it holds true, but it I'll put out something new whenever something new comes up. But a lot of it is just organizing your evidence. And people will come up to me and they'll say, hey, look, man, I was able to get, go from this to this, and it's because of you. And I'm like, no, it's because you organized your evidence. You have your evidence. You did all this. I don't like to take credit for things. It's my anxiety disorder again. I don't like to take credit for stuff, but I like the fact that veterans are feeling that there's good information out there. And I've tried to boost up everyone else around me as much as I can. Now, there's a couple people that, they want to, I don't know, they got a hustle or something like that, and I'm messing up their hustle and they want to come at me, and that's cool, I guess. I'm still learning what the etiquette is on YouTube, but, like the salty old Marine, H-Town vet, the salty Marine, I like boosting people up because we are a community. And I feel like YouTube has really fractured that, unfortunately.
what everybody's trying to, so first, before I go to my next statement, I want to go back to what you said. So what you can tell these people is you open the door for them and they walk through it. How about that?
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And the reason, because I had a mentor who
that.
I had a mentor who was here, and I got in a documentary about real estate and finance because I was at one of these events and they were doing a documentary, which is unheard of for a mortgage person to be in a documentary. But the issue was, and I was like, thank you so much for getting. He goes, dude, I opened the door. You walked through it and talked to him and got on. That was all you. And that's the same thing you're doing, is you're opening the door to the knowledge so that we can have it, and then we take it. So when someone says thank you for helping them get there, they really mean that, because you did help them. And the information I've gotten from you just is amazing, how much, because I couldn't have found it anywhere else the same way. Yeah. Yes, CivDiv, there's other channels who have it and they're good, but you're a rater. It's a totally different world.
But I'm also not the only gig in town. And that's one thing I will tell everybody, is that some people might not like how I present my evidence. That's fine. There are good channels out there that present it just in a different way. That's the other thing, is I don't want to, it's not like Highlander. There can be only one. Like, there can be a lot of different channels out there that actually, provide the support and, I guess, enrich the entirety of the information, and I think we can all do it together. I'm really weird. I'll admit that. I'm weird in the YouTube thing. I don't have to be the subject matter expert. It only took 2 weeks to go through. Just got the decision notification on the. Well, I mean, congratulations. It's like when somebody says thank you for your service.
Right.
I get that uncomfortable. Like, that's how uncomfortable I get. I go, thank you for your support. I'm glad everything worked out. I don't
know. My son's in the Army. He's stationed, and the last time he went through the airport, he goes, Dad, he goes, after the 100th one, it's just so much when you're walking through an airport. I go, but be happy, because Vietnam vets got nothing. They got spit on. So be thankful that they're at the point where they're thanking you. When I was in the service in San Diego, there were signs on people's lawns that said, keep your dogs and your sailors off our lawn.
Oh, wow. Wow. That's horrible.
It is, but that's what we deal with. You got to remember, in certain towns, they love you and hate you at the same time, because it's like, if you look at Hawaii, they hate the tourists, but they need the tourists and they love, that whole thing. So it's things like that happen. I unfortunately, I could keep going, but I have an appointment in a half hour. So, what is there anything else you want to leave us with? I know you're going to talk more. You probably have 4 more lives today that you're going to do yourself. And
one more. I've got one more live actually today, but honestly, it's, if you're confused, try to educate yourself as much as you can. If you need help and support, there's accredited ways to go about it. There's some claim companies to go about it. Like, I don't do my own taxes. I pay somebody to do my taxes. So in some respect, I can kind of understand claims companies, but, just be mindful of who you're going with and what they're providing to you. Like, if they're like, yeah, I've been doing this. Okay. But what's your claim to fame? Have you worked for the VA? Have you, whatever, like what is your claim to fame? because it really frustrates me whenever people like, you know, get consulted, like they pay money to people to be consulted, and it's like, what gives you the information? I don't know. I'm thinking about becoming legal eagle, like going the accredited claims agent route, and if so, I don't know, that might be something I do in the future.
But have you, because I looked into that. It takes a year, because I'm in California. So they just passed that law where in 27 January, you can't help a veteran. Well, technically you couldn't help a veteran to begin with unless you were a VSO or accredited to begin with. And so the only difference is they just made it illegal, where that federal law has always been into place, but they took the teeth away.
Yeah, they took the teeth away. Yeah. So, and a lot of the times,
I'm sorry, one more thing. They don't even know what the teeth are going to be on this law.
Yeah.
In California. And the way they said it and the way they did it, I guarantee someone's going to sue them, and they're going to make those changes. So the biggest thing I want vets to get their help. If you get help somewhere, but just be cautious of who those people are. Just how much they're going to charge you. Because eventually I paid for mine, which I was okay with because I had no time. I had no understanding of it. But during the process is when I learned so much, and now I understand so much more. You need to get help, but be careful who you're going through. The problem I have is the ones that would charge a certain dollar amount and then only get 10% and then still charge that dollar amount. If they don't give you a certain thing, then you need to look somewhere else. Money back guarantee.
I agree. Like that's sound. Like that's sound business advice there, to where at least you have a safety net, it's hard because, everybody here is a grown adult. They spend their money however they spend it. I'm not telling people how to spend their money. I'm just saying, look, there are free options, like in terms of, like, I'm giving out free information, although I am pushing coffee and I am pushing, ads on YouTube. I'm not partnering or affiliating with anybody currently. That's true.
Maybe that's why people were complaining they have to see ads now.
Well, no, yeah, they've seen ads for quite a while now, but sometimes YouTube can get weird with how many ads it puts on there. Yeah. But anyway, I know you have to go. Thank you so much for having me on. I really do appreciate this. It's been fun, and we should do it again sometime.
Dude, I'll be reaching. You said that I'll be reaching out to you all the time with questions. But also, I'd like to have you back on because there's so much information that needs to be out there, and we need to get it out there. And I'm happy that you go on other people's channels. Plus, I want those people on. I want to interview all those people just to find out more about it, because I think everybody needs to understand the secrets. There's not like a secret sauce, but an understanding of how the process really works, and so that they know when someone tells them to do something, that's not truly how you do it.
Yeah, or there's caveats. Like, I'm not going to do an absolute, like, that's not how it works. But sometimes 90% of the time, that's not how it works. So we can't push it as an absolute. So I don't know. But
it's that whole absolute thing, right?
Yeah. No absolutes.
That's right. It's a false. That's how you take tests. If it's an absolute, it's false. So
yeah.
All right. Appreciate everybody being here. I appreciate you guys watching this. Thanks. Reach out to Rater. If you're not already on his channel, subscribe to him. Send me some love sometime. Let me know. Yeah. And again, Rater, thank you so much for being on. Hang out here after we close off. All right.
All right. Will do.
Anything else you want to add before we go? Say goodbye.
No, just love the opportunity. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thank you all.